Some 2024 presidential hopefuls are making their way to the first-in-the-nation caucus state of Iowa. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley is courting voters there this week. Another South Carolina Republican, Senator Tim Scott, will speak at Drake University in Des Moines tomorrow, sparking speculation he could announce his candidacy soon. Let's bring in CBS News political director Finn Gomez to talk more about this. Finn, good to see you, my friend. So what impact could Tim Scott have on Nikki Haley's campaign?
Yeah, as you mentioned, they're both going to be in Iowa, that crucial early voting state. Haley is campaigning in the Hawkeye state as the declared candidate, while Scott is on his, quote, Faith in America listening tour. Iowa, of course, but some of the early voting states he's also visiting. Usually, of course, Vlad, that's a prelude to a run. There is a sense among some top Republican strategists that I've spoken to that these two party stars are headed for a political collision course, however, if, of course, Scott decides to run. They both have similar messages. Republicans that I've spoken with have said they utilize this sense of like optimism, a central theme of their messaging. But they have these personal stories of overcoming hardship and uplift. But they both come from this traditional wing of the Republican Party, and of course they're both from South Carolina. So they are also competing for, and a lot of times, the same donors, same base Republican supporters, and again, some folks that I spoke to in South Carolina, Republicans who have told me that they are torn between these two. Some previous Haley supporters for different elections are now sitting on the sidelines waiting to see what Tim Scott decides, and he is looking, at least it seems to be, in this state of the race, that he is showing a lot of indicators, Vlad, that he's strongly considering a race, and he's hired staff visiting the early states. But of course, it's still we're very early. A lot could change. It could be a very wide field. And again, we're very, very early at this point in this whole race.
So, of course, very early, but still, Iowa's getting a lot of attention. Former Vice President Mike Pence was in Cedar Rapids, Iowa last week. There's a lot of speculation as to whether or not he's considering a bid for the White House. What we haven't seen, or who we haven't seen, is Donald Trump. He announced some campaign staff in Iowa, but no plans to visit the state. What's his campaign focusing on?
Yeah, and remember, Anne-Marie, I mean, he lost Iowa back in 2016, when it was a much wider field than before he was president, of course. But yeah, with Iowa, he's actually headed to East Palestine, Ohio, on Wednesday. That's, of course, the small town that was impacted by the toxic materials released after a trail derailment happened 2 weeks ago. Trump is going there in an attempt to focus some of the headlines and political world attention back to him. He's there also to try to amplify his criticism towards the Biden administration for their reaction to the incident that he claims was inept. So he's also raising money, Anne-Marie. We can confirm that Trump's PAC, MAGA Inc., is holding an event for Republican big money donors this Thursday. And just a few miles down the road, Anne-Marie, Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, who's also considering a White House run, is holding a closed retreat for Republican donors as well. So that money race is also just beginning.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has not officially announced his candidacy, Finn, but he made some campaign stops yesterday in Chicago, New York, Philly. What's the strategy?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to these blue states. I mean, he went on these 3 states as part of a pro law enforcement focus. And these three cities that you went to, New York, Philly, and Chicago, they're run by Democratic governments, Democratic Party-led governments. So he's also attempting to focus some criticism towards them. And according to a Florida source close to DeSantis, who was familiar with his plans, it was also a way to show that the police there who feel unsupported by the leaders in the respective municipalities are getting support from folks like DeSantis. But again, he's looking to generate these headlines at this point where he has not declared he is expected to jump into the race later this year, but it likely will not happen until the beginning of the March 8th legislative session in Florida. That session goes on for 60 days. But these visits also serve as a reminder to his base supporters and others within the Republican Party that he is there. It's almost a shadow campaign, it previews his potential run. He also has an autobiography coming up on the 28th. It's titled "The Courage to Be Free," and it serves as a blueprint for a potential announcement. It's really a big sign, a lot of people say within the party, that he is readying a 2024 announcement later this spring.
So then, other than the candidates that we've already discussed, is there anyone else that may be a GOP presidential candidate?
Yeah, that's a great question, Anne-Marie, because I have spoken to people who see this field either being very wide. There could be as many as 20 people. I've spoken to people, top Republican strategists who were connected to big national campaigns who aren't affiliated with any campaigns this time around. But they believe that this could be a field up as wide as 16, 20, just a very large number. But it could also be a much smaller field. Right now, it's really between at least the attention that the party, the name ID, and all the other factors that that this field is getting. The two big names are Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. But of course, with Nikki Haley entering to the race, she's getting more attention. And with the potential candidacies of Tim Scott, of Mike Pence, Mike Pompeo, the list goes on. It could be a very wide field.
All right, Finn, thank you very much.
Thank you all.